When I was putting together my sea glass jewellery tutorial, I came up with an idea for a ring, and a lovely follower called Cheryl asked me to show her how I'd made the ring. So I've had a few more goes. It's still not successful, but it could work for flat semi-precious stones and little bits of broken pottery, that sort of thing. But I can tell you it's still a work in progress. But this is as far as I have got with it. So if any of you can help me make this more stable and a better design, then I'm happy for you to take it on and, make it a better design. So I'm using 2 wires. I'm working from the spool. This is 0.8, 20 gauge. And I think it works well with two-tone colours. So you can either use one colour of 0.8 mil, or you can go with 2 like I am, just to sort of like jazz it up a bit. So I'm curling and curling and curling around. I mean, the amount of wire you use will depend on how thick you want the band to be. And you leave a long tail and a short tail. So take the short tail, bend it to a right angle. This is going to be the back of the ring. Pinch everything together at the back and hold that tight, and then bring the short tail. Obviously it's easier if you don't have 2 wires because you're just going to have 1 wire to bind. But I wanted to show it with 2 wires because I think it looks really attractive with the 2 tones. And then you're going to wrap a tight wrap as close as you can to the back. Now you don't want to leave cut ends on the inside of the ring, because when you push your finger through, those little cut ends are going to, scratch your finger. So try and leave any cut end on the outside. And the reason I leave this longer tail to bind around over the top is so I can hide those short ends. They'll sort of cover them up. And also the binding will become a feature at the back. So with the 2 pieces, you're going to have to sometimes bind them separately. But be patient, pull them through, and then cut them off just near to the top. And then use your pliers to push down and also squish them together. This is going to be a bit messy. You've got to allow for a ring like this is going to have a very organic feel. So put it on your ring stick again. It's going to be smaller because of the binding. So when you make it, you don't want to go smaller than your ring size. You want to go your ring size or a half size bigger, because you will be able to stretch it, but not that much. And really, I can't really give you an idea of how much wire to use, because if you wrapped a lot of wire and the gauge was bigger, it's obviously going to become smaller. If you have thinner wires and don't wrap as many, it's going to be a bigger ring. So it's so dependent on how many wraps you make and what gauge you're using. It will work with any gauge, honestly, but I would use 0.8 20 gauge. So you can see I'm turning it over all the time, and when I'm hammering, I'm not going sort of gung-ho hammering. I'm not sort of like really killing it. I'm just gently stroke hammering and just easing it to become bigger and bigger, but just very slowly. Now, to me, that is a lovely ring. That works. It doesn't fit me at the moment, but so I'll have to make it bigger. But you can stretch this a lot more. You can see just gently stroke hammering it, and as you go you can increase the hammering because you've stretched it, so it's not going to move so much anymore. And the only reason I say that is that the binding, if you hammer too much and too quickly with the back binding, you could ultimately sort of get it too brittle. So there we go. That's become a bit bigger, as you can see. Right, so to make the ring with a sea glass or any small flat piece, open it up like a alligator mouth and open it up as big as you want your piece to fit inside. So now I'm using 0.4, it can be 0.5 or 0.6. This is 0.4. And what I'm doing is taking my sea glass and I'm going to wrap around the middle, or whatever shape you've got. Now, I found it works better with sea glass that's quite small, quite flat. It just makes it easier. And then I'm twisting it so that when I've wrapped around the middle, I end up with the excess wires or projecting wires coming out at the top on the opposite side. So you can see I've bound around the middle and then I've got them coming out the opposite sides. Now I'm just flattening and spreading the back. So there's the twist. I've tightened the back. This is the front. And now I've got the wires coming out at the top ends, the opposite sides. And this is what I'm going to bind to the top and base of the open jaws of the ring. So you bind on one side, just do a couple of binds in and stabilize it by doing a couple of binds on the opposite side. And all the time you're trying to make sure that the stone is not going to sort of slip to the front. You want it to sit in between, and then bring the wire across the front. That will stabilize it at the front because it's already stabilized at the back. And then you can bring the other top wire across and do the same. Now mine is a bit short, I should have allowed a bit more. So I'm going to go across the front, but I'm coming round just where it meets the shank, the base of the shank. I should have allowed a bit more. So do, be generous with your fine binding wires so that you can allow for lots of wrapping, and that makes it stabilize a lot more. And then finish off at the top. So you can see this thing is very organic, and every time you do it, the piece will be a different shape. So a heavier, bigger piece won't work as easily because it will slip out. But a thin, light, flat piece is going to work much better. And the reason why I say it's a work in progress is that some pieces didn't work so well. I did do a few of them, and some of them were successful, depending on the shape. If they had a sort of more solid base and not such a pointed end, they worked better because they sat really, well within the gap of the ring. But so I'm going to leave it to you if you want to play with this idea and let me know how you get on. I'd just love to hear how you get on, because I've had many failures with this, but it's for you, Cheryl. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial and it gives you an idea of how to get something like this made, and gives you inspiration to make your own designs. So take it and run with it. That's what I say. I mean, all we're trying to do is have fun being creative, and that's my aim in life. I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm aiming for enjoying the process of making something and coming up with a new idea. So I hope this has inspired you to have a go. Thank you for watching, and thanks for asking, Cheryl.